Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about 10 off the beaten path countries you need to visit in your retirement travel.
And we've been to a lot of countries over the years, and we don't often talk about some of them because we don't spend a ton of time there, but they are amazing countries, and you need to go at least once to these places and just check them out. You have the time, now is the time, do this before you are unable to go. And let's jump right in. The first one is going to be Jordan. This was something that was on our list for a long time because we really wanted to go see Petra.
Yeah, I think this one is probably on a lot of people's list, but people get a little bit nervous about it. But the hospitality that we experienced in Jordan was absolutely incredible. It was such a surreal experience. It almost felt at many times like we were on another planet. It has actually been the set for many movies that you've seen, likely, including some of the Star Wars movies filmed there. But it was really, you kind of felt like you were on another planet multiple times because of the landscape is so beautiful. And like I said, the people were amazing. The food was phenomenal. And then to top it all off, to be able to see one of the world wonders in seeing Petra, it was actually kind of surreal, don't you think?
Yeah, not only going to Petra was amazing, but we took a chance to go into the Wadi Rum desert, and that was great to just be able to drive around there, have dinner out in the desert, and seeing the camels walking around was really cool. That was something we hoped to get to do, so it was just a great experience. Definitely one that you should put on your list. The next country is one that we actually fell in love with after we went the first time. We weren't really sure if we would like it. Have been there now several times, love it, and so it's no longer off the beaten path. It is definitely on the path for future visits, and that is Vietnam.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, again, this one gets put off down the list just because it's one of those countries that with a U.S. passport you have to apply for a visa beforehand, and I think sometimes people get a little bit uncomfortable with having to do that, but it's absolutely worth it to go through that process. It's not a difficult process. You can do it right online, and actually we had an opportunity. We had a visa in hand to go several years before and had to put it off for 3 years before we could actually go and get another visa and actually go. And it was a phenomenal experience. We had such a great time in Vietnam, and we've been able to since then travel all the way up and down the country and just experience different parts of it. And it's just beautiful, and the people are just beautiful, and I don't even need to say that much about the food because it's incredible.
Yeah, we loved actually being up in the Hanoi area. Ha Long Bay was amazing. Got to go take a private boat tour of that, and then down in Saigon did some walking tours there, and just really had an incredible time. The people were so amazing, so it really is a place that we just definitely want to come back to. The third country on the list is the Faroe Islands. Now this is one we had not heard of until shortly before we went there, and it is basically with Denmark, but it's a little island all to itself, a group of islands, and it is some of the most remote and some of the most beautiful scenery that you will see. It is so worth going to, especially if you like photography like I do. I saw some of these locations and I was like, I have got to go there because this doesn't even seem like a real place. Some of the scariest moments we've ever had were there. It's just like a wild place. The hiking is wild. I've never been more scared than standing over this little ledge that overlooks a lake overlooking the ocean. It's like a straight down drop, and it's like you're just standing there. So be careful if you do that one. That's on the hike to the floating lake. But the waterfalls are just incredible, and then the drives were...
I'm not sure what word to use there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a wild place.
Yeah, I think I knew we were in for a treat when we were coming in for a landing, and the plane starts, wobbling in the air, and then you look out the window and you're just like, where are we? Like, it's another one where it felt like we were landing in another planet. You're coming over that floating lake. There's only one runway. You're coming in over that floating lake, and there's so much wind in between there because the landing area is kind of in a valley, and you're coming down and you're kind of rocking all over the place, and you're like, I don't know what's going on. And you finally land, you're like, oh, thank goodness we're on the ground. And then you walk out of the airport and you're just like flabbergasted with the beauty. I mean, I don't know, I was gasping constantly the entire time we were there. It was such a unique place. I mean, the closest thing that I could think of to it would be maybe like Iceland, but still, Faroe Islands is completely unique and so different, and the experience there was absolutely incredible. If you love, like you said, photography, hiking, nature, bird watching, this is the place for you. So do not leave this one off your list.
And I will say, spend a little bit more and get the automatic car.
Reserve it in advance.
Don't get the manual like we did. Driving is not easy there. The next one on the list is going to be Bosnia, which was a surprise to us. We hadn't really planned to go. Then we got a chance to go when we were in the region, and we thought, why not do it? And it turned out to be just a pretty amazing place.
Yeah, we didn't really know what to expect from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Growing up, we heard lots of different things from that region, and it just, it's just so unique. And again, this is a place that's really cool because the landscape is really beautiful, and the food was incredible. Oh my goodness. We ate several meals there, and it was so good. And it was just really beautiful. I don't remember how many photos I took, but I know that I took hundreds of pictures while we were there. It was such a cool experience, and just, again, one of those places that just because you have, some thought about them from something you've heard in the past doesn't mean that that's what it's like. Actually go and experience it for yourself, and Bosnia and Herzegovina is one of those places.
Next up is going to be Norway. Now, Norway is one of the most beautiful countries on this list, definitely in the top 3. And we went there for photography and specifically to see the Northern Lights. And we were successful in that. We were very fortunate to see them in all their glory on several occasions and got to take pictures of them. Basically chased them around the country for 2 to 3 weeks, and it was just an incredible experience.
Yeah, I think Norway is one of those places that's like, if someone said, here's a house in Norway, you can live here, I would not even think twice. And I would put up with the winters there and go live there for a year, because it is just, again, it's one of those places that's so beautiful. And similar to the list that I made from the Faroe Islands, Norway, again, if you love photography, you love hiking probably should have gone first. Photography, again, nature, you're going to see some of the most phenomenal sights you'll ever see. The hiking there is elite status. And definitely be in shape when you go because the hiking there, hiking is just like, second nature, I think, to Norwegians. You see them just with their hiking poles all over the place. So what we would think is difficult is probably not that difficult for them. So definitely keep that in mind when you're looking at the rankings of the hikes, because we made that mistake of hiking one that was a little more difficult than we would have ranked it, than what they ranked it.
Yeah, I saw this thing online of a mountain I wanted to go see, and I just thought this looked like it wasn't even real, so we had to go check it out, and you had to drive through. The hard part was we had to drive through tunnels that were seemingly being constructed as we were driving through them. And super remote place. This was just a very difficult place to get to. But we had a lot of time. We had a rental car, so it didn't matter. Got hotels. Got to this place in Senja and hiked up this mountain. And it was just stunning. Everything that I could have imagined that I saw online, it was. And we hiked up there, and we sat up there for like an hour, and we were the only people up there that day. I think someone passed us coming down. We might have passed someone else when we were coming down. But up there alone for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and just kind of a surreal thing to see, like, wow, I am really here. I saw this place online and we made it here. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't easy to hike up there, but it was totally worth it.
Yeah, it feels like it's one of those ones where you get on like your computer screen,
Yeah.
and it pops up there, and it kind of felt like that, like I was actually in the computer screen and I was actually looking at what that was, and it was really quite lovely.
Next one's going to be Iceland, and we kind of did these back to back when we knew it was a good time for Northern Lights, and so we wanted to see the Northern Lights in Iceland also. Wanted to do the same thing, hiking. It was absolutely gorgeous. I think Iceland is even more beautiful than Norway, if that's possible. It's more wild. It is just crazy picturesque. So I had an incredible time there, and the experiences we had seeing the Northern Lights at some, like, when you're in the U.S., you can see the Northern Lights. Like, sure, I'm out in your backyard. Maybe you're up in Montana. You can see them. But to see them at iconic locations like a glacier lagoon or some of these amazing Iceland waterfalls, that is a real treat.
Yeah, I think the waterfalls was one of the things that kind of astounded us, because they have a lot of, different sites that you go to, but there's also the same things that you can see that are not actually even named or labeled. They're just on the way along the drive. You see this waterfall, you're like, oh, what waterfall is this? It's like, it's not named. There's no path there. It's just there off the side of the mountain, and water just pouring. The landscape there is unbelievable. Like you said, it's wild, because you can go from like wearing a short sleeve shirt to having a huge parka jacket in like 30 minutes to an hour difference, and you're just like, what just happened here? It's just so wild. It's so beautiful. Definitely worth going to and exploring.
Next one on the list is going to be Japan. Now, Japan is off the beaten path, and it's a very difficult country language-wise for some people to kind of wrap their heads around. It was probably the country that kind of shook us the most when we got there. First, we were maybe in culture shock a little bit the most there, because there is very little English. But once we kind of stabilized ourselves and got our feet under us, it is now one of our favorite countries in the world.
Absolutely. Japan is probably the most unique experience overall. Even if you go just to the basic main cities, it's still incredible. But you start to go to any of the cities along the path of any train that you take, get off and explore it, and you're just like, wow, this is like incredible. Sometimes what I think is amazing is like the old and the new is kind of married together, because you're walking around in Tokyo and you see these huge buildings and the hustle and bustle of the city, although the quietest hustle and bustle of a city you'll ever experience, and cleanest. But then you'll turn off to a side street and you're like, oh, this is like old Japan, So it's just kind of cool. I love how those two things kind of merge together. In Japan, almost every city is like that. They've got the big part of the city, but then right off of it, you've got like the old city as well. And it's really just beautiful. And the people are incredible. The food, I don't have to say anything, is wow. And it's just a really unique experience that is something that I think everyone should see.
Next one you should not miss is going to be Switzerland. And Switzerland is amazing because you can see it basically from the train. You want to get a rail pass while you're there and just ride all over the country. It's so accessible, but so beautiful. And probably, one of the prettiest countries we've been to. We were there when the snow fell and just had an amazing time seeing the sights in Switzerland.
Yeah, and I think the expense of Switzerland is what probably keeps most people away. And while that does exist, it is as expensive as they say. Unlike Japan, which is not as expensive as they say, Switzerland is indeed as expensive as they say. It's still worth every single penny in the beauty, just what you're going to experience there. If you love skiing, absolutely go in the winter time. If you love hiking, you will have an incredible time. I mean, you could probably just stand at any place in the country and just be able to take pictures. I mean, here in the U.S., we have train rides that have names because of special things you're going to see along the way. In Switzerland, you're riding trains, and I'm like, look at this incredible view. How is this not like a named train that tourists are riding? No, it's just the regular everyday, shift between one city to another city. And it's just like, wow, this is crazy.
Next country on the list is Colombia, and we had an amazing time in Colombia. We spent several months there, and it was a country that we were, wondering, should we go here? Because if you grew up like we did in the 80s, Colombia was different back then, and it's frankly changed quite a bit over the years, and Colombia was a great place to go, full of culture, amazing food. I think it's some of the best food we've had in all of our travels, so it's a place that's a little bit off the path, but one that we really enjoyed visiting.
Yeah, I think this one, like I mentioned with another country earlier, this one stays off of people's list because of those concerns from back in, the 80s. This is a completely different country today. It's not the country that you heard of, growing up or back in the early 80s. This is a completely different place. It's amazing. And like you said, the food is phenomenal. They are committed to delicious food. Like committed. And not just Colombian food. They do all different types of foods there from different cuisines from a variety of places, and they do it all really well. And do not even get me started on the Colombian hospitality. The Colombian people are so beautiful, so kind, so generous. Cannot highly recommend this enough. We really enjoyed Colombia.
Then we've got Indonesia, which for a lot of people is off the path. It's a pretty populous and spread out country. There's a lot of places you could go. I think the easiest place to start your time in Indonesia is in Bali, and it's a great place to visit.
Yeah, Indonesia is incredible. I think what's really cool about Indonesia is there are so many different islands that you can go to, and each one is a little bit different and has something different to offer. We enjoy going to Bali because we enjoy what it has to offer for us, but there's so many different places to go, so many different islands to go, and each one of them has their own culture, which makes, I think, Indonesia so unique in this aspect. We really enjoyed it. We've enjoyed the people there, the hospitality incredible, and we've enjoyed the food there too.
Yeah, so a lot of these places are a little bit hard to get to, a little bit hard to understand what you need to do when you get there, and that's one of the reasons why we've created a community of people, of retirement travelers who are helping each other with hotels and where to go and what to do, visa situations, all this. That community is a part of our Retirement Travel Jumpstart course. It is included in that. There's a link in the description of this video if you want to check that out. If you're going to be traveling overseas and going to some of these places, you want to have a group of people that you can do it with and at least ask some questions, bounce some ideas off of, and that is the perfect place to do it.
Yeah, and guys, if you have any questions about the countries we've mentioned in this video, leave us your questions down in the comment section. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this content. If you like this video, give us a like, and we'll see you guys next time.